your potato chips, open them now so that they won't hear on the video. No pressure. Okay. Thank you for the introduction. I'm glad to be here with you today, and hopefully I will talk about research topics and give you some information that will be useful to you. This is just a little bit about my background and my experience. I got a Bachelor of Textile Engineering, which probably most of you never heard of. It was a degree that used to be offered at Georgia Tech in 1987. From there, I went to the Ph.D. program at MIT and got a Ph.D. there in mechanical engineering and polymer science and engineering. And the polymer program is a cross-disciplinary program similar to the polymer program here. Is anybody in the polymer program here? No. So here you can be in like chemical engineering, material science, chemistry, biomedical engineering, and get a polymer PhD. It's the same thing at MIT. So I was officially in mechanical engineering and did all their core courses, but the qualifiers and the other core courses were in polymer science. I then came to Georgia Tech in 1992, fall of that year, and I've been here ever since, except for a 2-year stint that I did at the National Science Foundation, and I was there as a program director. And when I talked to the high school kids about what I do, I basically got to shop, and my budget was like $12 million, but I got to spend about $14 million, which is really cool. But I could only shop for research, which I thought was really cool. But I also convinced other people, obviously, they're not going to let me go $2 million over budget. Other people gave me the money. So the Department of Energy gave me $1 million from their budget to fund some stuff, and then other program directors gave me money to fund other things. And so one of the things I like to do is find a win-win where people can work together. So when I have proposals come to me that also had a research interest in another program, I let those program directors know, and we co-funded a lot of stuff. So that's how I was able to expand the budget and actually fund more stuff. So most of what I'm going to talk about today kind of is from that experience, as well as being a faculty for over 10 years. So your slides look a little different because the black background was going to be hard to print. So this is a slide I put together for one of the projects that I do, Women's International Research Engineering Summit. And what we do is we have webinars where we bring women together to try to find collaborators, as well as have face-to-face meetings. And what we did is we designed this template to enable people to be able to find collaborators. So this tells you a little bit about my research and what I do. It also kind of indicates that I do experimental work as well as modeling. So basically, again, to the high school students, I say my students break things. So we don't make the things we break usually, and we don't write the algorithms to solve the models that we come up with, but everything sort of in between, that's what we do. So people that I work with, I want people that can synthesize polymers, polymer structure, fiber structures, anything polymeric at all, that they want to know more about and want to be able to model the response or the failure of that, or if they want to design it so that it does not fail. I also want people to develop algorithms because some of our models are quite complex and we want them to be solved very quickly. So we also partner with people who write algorithms. Another area that I'm interested in is gender and also outreach and so the pipeline of STEM. And this is a picture of graduate students in the middle of them like this. And she actually just defended her thesis last week. Megan Toney. Okay. And then these are some of the girls in our club. It's called Girls Excelling in Math and Science, and it's a middle school girls club. So I do outreach to middle school, outreach to high school, and outreach to international women through the choirs. So we also, in these meetings, we want women to share their personal interests as well. And we found out in one of our meetings we had enough people to actually have a band next time we get together. So several of us are going to bring our instruments next time we all get together so that we can jam with each other. So I like cooking. I have wonderful husband. This is our first date. It was Valentine's Day, like 30 years ago. And he's known as Mr. Dr. Realff, or the other Dr. Realff. And we have co-advised students together. He's in chemical engineering. Is anybody from chemical? Okay. Do you know Mr. Dr. Realff? Yes. So this is when he had more hair. This is my son, Alexander. He just finished his first year at Georgia Tech. He found it very hard. This is my daughter, Penelope, and she's a senior in high school next year. She's going to Washington University, St. Louis this summer to do their summer mini-mester. Involved in volunteering in various places. I'm the chair for the auction committee. We try to raise about, well, last year we raised about $220,000. So I'm the auction chair this year. This is the committee from 2 years ago. I'm also involved with the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. I just got back last night from their summer annual meeting where I served there. And there's also a place called MedShare. Has anybody heard of MedShare? Oh, several of you. Okay. It's a really awesome place to volunteer. You basically pack up medical supplies to send all over the world to help people, and these are medical supplies that hospitals don't want anymore. So it's really interesting. I like to travel, and I take guitar lessons. So I want to know a little about who's in the room, and I'm sure we'll get to you when you put something in your mouth to make it right. But real quickly, let's just go around, and can you tell me your name, your department, when you started the graduate program, a little snippet of your thesis, and then have you ever written or helped write a research proposal? So, for a second.
Yeah. My name is Shakil. I am from electrical engineering. I'm doing Ph.D. I started my program in January 2011, and I am working with signal processing. I'm applying signal processing and pattern recognition and machine learning techniques to the signals obtained from brain images. I'm mainly working in bioengineering with resting state functional MRI. I don't expect any of you to know about this, but it is something to do with MRI. And I have never written any research proposal. I'm planning to do it next year.
Okay.
My name is Renee Cottle, and I'm working on a doctorate degree in environmental engineering. And I started my program in 2010, so I'm going into my 5th year. And my research is on genome editing in hematopoietic stem cells as a new therapy for sickle cell disease. And I've never written a research proposal. I have applied for fellowships.
I'm Courtney Miller in the Civil Engineering Department in Water Resource Engineering, and I'm going to be working on, started my graduate program in the fall of last year, and my research will be on modeling wetlands using satellite data and tying that into decision support systems in water engineering, and same as Renee, I've written fellowship applications, not like a formal research proposal.
I'm Sarvat. I'm from UC. I started my PhD in 2009, and my research is applying signal processing techniques to magnetic recording material. And I've never written or nor applied for any research proposal.
I'm Brittany English. I'm in electrical engineering PhD program. I started this past fall. My research is in rehabilitation robotics. Basically, we work with like video games and toys and stuff to make rehab like therapy like a fun experience. And I have written a proposal for a class, but never for anything.
My name is Judy. I'm in transportation. I'm doing a master's degree so far. My thesis is still like it's in the air, but it has something to do with low-income communities in transit, and I haven't written a formal proposal.
Hi, my name is Ramni. I'm a master's student in electrical and computer engineering. My area of interest is VLSI and digital circuit design. and I started last fall, and I hope to graduate this December. Um, as for proposal writing, I'm taking the same classes she did last semester, so yeah, I'll help students with writing a proposal. But I don't think I'll ever write a research proposal.
My name is Kelly Bartlett. I'm in ISYE. I started in 2009 in the Ph.D. program. My thesis research basically has to do with the routing of vehicles in an automated material handling system. And we used a lot of simulation and that type of thing. I've been involved in writing kind of a follow-on proposal for industry funding. So it's different, I guess, than kind of the grant-based proposals for that.
My name is Lauren Pretty. I'm in bioengineering. I started in 2010 in the PhD program, and my research is in biomaterials for bone tissue engineering. And I just recently had the opportunity to help my advisor write a NIH R1 that was submitted last week. So that was my first experience.
Hi, I'm Saber Neal. I just finished my department. I'm in the CSE department, which is Computational Science and Engineering. In the PhD program, I just started in this past fall, and so far my research is in the area of modeling and simulations using HLA, data distribution management, which is like an architecture that's used by Department of Defense, and I'm studying the power efficiency of those methods and creating more power efficient methods.
Hi, my name is Diana from Mechanical Engineering. I came to Georgia Tech in 2008 and got my master's degree, and then I worked in the industry for a few years. I just came back to do my PhD graduate. So my research project is measurements in the control of cellular processes on 3D printing. I haven't had to write a proposal, but recently my advisor gave us some review about those proposals.
Okay, my name is Anne. I'm in a material science master's, and I started last fall. My research is about non-destructive evaluation, so sending a wave in and measuring the second harmonic. And I've never written a research.
Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm in aerospace engineering. I started here with my master's in fall 2011, and I decided to stay for a PhD. My thesis research is on manufacturing influence design for spacecraft, and I have never written a research proposal.
Hi, I'm Laura Strickland. I'm a robotics PhD student through the Home School of Mechanical Engineering, and I started last fall, so fall 2013. And my thesis is going to be on, I'm developing and working on algorithms for a multi-agent system for lifting and transporting loads of any weight. So the heavier the load, the more robots. And I've done things like NSF and NDSEG, but I have not actually written a real research proposal yet.
Hi, my name is Vivian. I am also a robotics PhD, but my home school is under the interactive computing. I also started last fall. And my research, well, my lab is the Socially Intelligent Machines lab. So we tried to come up with machine learning algorithms that you can run on robots where people can interact with them and not have to build a program to get your robot to do interesting things. And I have never written a research proposal.
So, hi, my name is Stephanie. I am an ECE second year, finishing that up. My research involves trying to diagnose stress and depression from speech when patients have a communication disorder. And I have written fellowships as well as helped my advisor with his joint NSF-NIH proposal, which we hope to hear back sometime this month.
I'm Hannah Orman. I'm in the mechanical engineering department, and I did my undergrad here and started my master's this January, so I'm pretty fresh. My thesis is on a diffusion absorption refrigeration cycle, so I'm in the Sustainable Thermal Systems lab, and we do a lot of cooling, I guess is the gist of the majority of the research in that lab. I have not written a research proposal.
My name is Riya Saluja. I'm from ECE department. I started my graduate program in the last fall, and still I'm looking for my advisor. So I don't have any research area currently, and I haven't written any research proposal till now.
And what's your undergrad degree?
My undergrad is electrical engineering. It is from India.
I'm Stephanie Chu as well. I'm in the School of Chemical and Biomedical Engineering, and I started my PhD program in fall 2010. My lab is doing some membrane applications for gas separations, and my thesis research is about developing hollow fiber sorbents for capturing CO2 from the flue gas. I have never officially written any research proposal, but I have done some fellowship applications. And that's about it.
Hi, I'm Sean. I'm in the chemistry department. This is my, I guess, entering second year, and my research is looking at continuous, both experimental and modeling, with continuous separation and reaction processes. And I've never had any experience either for proposal writing.
And my name is Benaz. I'm from the civil engineering department, and I started my program in January 2013, and I'm working with the faculty to work next time. We are working on developing green cement from metakaolin and limestone. And I had helped my professor when I was doing my master in Florida. We wrote a proposal for EPA together and developed.
My name's Astrid Layton. I'm in the mechanical engineering department, and I started in fall 2009. So I'll hopefully be done this year. My research is I'm looking at food webs and how species interact, trying to mimic that, how industries interact in like an industrial complex, so we get more efficient and sustainable. I've done the graduate fellowship application proposals, but never anything.
My name is Sasha. I'm in the civil engineering department. I just started last fall. My research involves recycled concrete aggregate and making green cement. And I have written no formal proposals, but I did fellowship. So.
My name is Gina McNaughty. I'm from the School of Mechanical Engineering. I started in the fall of 2011. My research is in automotive engineering. I do modeling and I'll be starting experiments for diesel fuel sprays. Just trying to improve fuel economy and reduce emissions. And like many women here, I've applied for fellowships but no formal proposals.
So why did you want to hear about generating research proposal ideas? What made you sign up besides the sandwiches?
I mean, I want to work in academia, so it's very important for her to start soon, and I'd like to help my advisor with research proposals. It's a good opportunity to work along someone instead of doing it on your own.
I mean, I think just like in general, learning to like communicate your ideas or your research in an effective way, and I think proposals is just one way to sort of communicate that idea to another party, and for them to like think it's interesting and like be able to fund you. It would be a good skill, I think, in any area.
Did anybody attend the thesis writing workshop that the communications people just did, the writing lab?
Are you talking about the thesis session last week?
Maybe. I met somebody on the bus who had like helped organized it, and they said there was a lot of interest in it. It was the writing center in Fluff, and apparently they put together a workshop on how to write a thesis. So they're going to do it again. So keep your eyes peeled for that, because just like writing proposals, when you get to write your thesis, different advisors will give you different guidelines or no guidelines or strict guidelines on writing your thesis. If you talk to people who are writing it now, they might be saying, I really don't know what's supposed to go in here and not go in here and whatever. But so they're going to do that workshop that might be of interest to you. So some things to think about when you're trying to think about your research topic and what do I write a proposal about is one of the things that you need to remember about your thesis. You're going to be the expert. You're going to know more about your thesis topic than anybody on the planet. You did the experiments, you wrote the code, you looked up the papers, you just summarized them for your advisor. He, she may have not looked at them, may have looked at them, may have just looked at the abstracts, may have taken your word for it and doesn't know all the nitty-gritty, because they can't. But you're spending all your time, I mean, a little bit of time doing classes, but not much, on your research, as a couple of the students were talking about earlier, that summer's a good time to do this because you're not doing anything except research. So just remember, when you finish, you're going to be the expert. You know the most about the subject. You do have research ideas, and you know which questions weren't answered in your thesis, which is the next point here. Has people who are kind of nearing, like you've been at it for 3 years or more, a couple of people over here, I mean, there have been questions you kind of wanted to go look at, and maybe early on your advisor said, yeah, go look at that, yeah, go look at that, yeah, go look at that, because he or she was trying to get you to figure out what you're passionate about, as well as what's important, and if it's going to be fruitful questions to go answer. But as you get along further and further, you'll probably see that your advisor's like, well, we're not going to answer that question, focus on this, because I think our contribution is in this area. So there's some unanswered questions, yes, for research, that you're really not going to answer everything about before you finish your thesis. So the ones that were really of interest to you, you were really interested, but you knew, okay, you'll get there and you'll be like, okay, it's been 5.5 years, I have to write up, I want to finish sometime, right? So there are going to be those questions. There'll be a lot of them. Okay, think about those questions. Those are good places to start on what research topic should I look at. The other thing is, it's going to be part of your thesis. Definitely in your defense, you'll have a slide that is called something like future work. So you'll have blah, blah, you tell all your results, you hit the highlights, you say, here's what my contributions were, and then you say, here's the unanswered questions, or it might be next steps. Have people been to thesis defense before? So usually they have a slide like that. So those are also areas where you could pick up those questions and move forward with them. And like I said, you know the most about the subject, so you kind of know what the deal is with these questions. You know why you didn't answer the question. Now, if the reason you didn't answer this unanswered question was nobody cares about it, it's not interesting, then don't pursue that question. But there'll be really good questions that you're like, I wish I could have gone and, see how it responded to this type of cell, or see what happens when I actually don't assume away something about the traffic. So for a couple people with transportation, you're making lots of assumptions. Somebody was saying they were doing modeling, right? There are lots of assumptions in your models that you're going to do. So what if you take that assumption away, then your model could look like this whole range of area of idea. That might be some correction to that. So you were thinking about academia. In your area, do you need to do a postdoc?
Yeah, I don't think they're as long as they're in biomedical, but we mostly do postdocs.
Anybody else think you'll do a postdoc? Okay, how are you going to pick where you do your postdoc? Okay. So you want to have options. Sometimes you don't have a lot of options, but it's not too early to start looking now, even if you're just kind of getting started. But you want to think about thinking about those questions that are unanswered, or some area, or maybe your professor is collaborating with somebody else on one aspect of it. So maybe they're electrical engineering, but they're partnering with a biomedical engineering person. And that biomedical engineering person has that expertise. Anybody in a situation where there's collaboration? Okay. So now expand what you think about the collaboration. Think of other places around the U.S. When you go to conferences, anybody been sent to a conference or go to a conference? I think SWE has money to send people to conferences, like the national level. So I think you have to present your work. Is this correct?
Yes, it is.
You have to have something to present.
Check your emails. You'll see that next week.
When you go to conferences, I know it's fun to go see the city, and I know sometimes it's kind of boring to go to the poster sessions, and some of the presentations may not be great, but look at, they'll give you a booklet or an app or something where you can see what the topics are. don't only look at the topics that are right along yours. So the robotics people don't just look at robotics, right? Look at the neural pathways people. You know, are they given some kind of talk? Because maybe we want to take robotics and connect them with the neural pathways and do great things. Look and see what types of things interest you. What is like really, what do you think is really cool research? And can you link that with the expertise that you're getting with your PhD? Can you see it kind of expanding in that area? So in other words, don't just go do the same thing you did for your PhD as your postdoc. Okay. Now, if you don't have an opportunity, if there's not an opportunity for you to do something else because you can't find that person to hire you to do something totally different, look at the people at the university that you go to and seek out collaborations with other people. And ask the questions, what expertise do you need to move in the direction that you want to move? So the next slide is, you know, what do you need to be able to generate these research ideas? Once you're a faculty, you will have information kind of offered to you. We have an Office of Sponsored Projects, and probably you can get on their list even as a grad student, I'm not positive. But I went in and answered some questions, and so they send me calls for proposals. They'll say, these opportunities are coming along, you might want to look at them, you might want to answer this call for proposal. There are other lists. SWE might have a list, I'm not sure, of research ideas. National Science Foundation certainly has a list, and you can go there. But get on those lists and find out about funding, and don't just think about like the National Science Foundation, but also think about foundations. A lot of times foundations will fund research, and as people mentioned, NSF, NIH fund research. At Georgia Tech, we actually have a foundations person who, if somebody is going for funding from a foundation, you can talk to that person and they can kind of give you the scoop about that foundation. So you can take advantage of that at Georgia Tech, find out more about it, and definitely when you go or faculty somewhere else, you'll probably have access. If you're at a research institution, they want you to get research money. So you can, they may have one office, they may not have a dedicated person to foundations, but they're going to have somebody who knows something about foundations. So you look about that too. You want to keep current with your journals, and if you're asked to be a reviewer, you should say yes. And you should review the paper in a timely manner. If you don't review the paper in a timely manner, don't say yes. Because it's not good, especially if you're a young faculty, to like, they have to beg you, oh, it's late, can you get it in, can you get it in, can you get it in? Because they probably won't ask you again. But say yes if it's your area and you feel comfortable. How many people have written papers? Did you get reviewer comments back? Okay, you can be nicer than those people. But as you know, somebody reads the paper and they're asking the question, you know, is a contribution, you know, is the math correct? Is it written in English if it's an English journal, right? All sorts of things. So, and also when you are a reviewer, you kind of see even more direction of what your field is going in because you get to see what people are, you know, the results sooner than otherwise. You want to look for collaborators. So just like when I had my slide over here, try to write down what kind of partners you want. Okay? Where do you think your research contribution is? Okay? So I kind of do some theory and some experimental. Okay? Because we also develop models. But I've sort of identified here what I don't do that's important to my research. Because if I just break things and nobody's making new things, you know, who wants to break things that are already out there anyway? If I don't have somebody who wants to develop new products or new things, then, you know, knowing how it's going to behave in the model may not be useful. So I would challenge you to kind of write down. It may not be easy for you to write down what your research is, but it might be easier for you to write down what it's not. And you can even think about in your research group, Probably, are people in groups of more than just youth? You have more people in the group? Okay. And are all the students, do they have all the same expertise, or is it kind of varied? Yeah. Okay. So think about those other people. Also think about your friends, and if you're like, I wouldn't want to do that. It's like, okay, I can probably write an algorithm, but I really don't want to. You know, it just doesn't seem exciting to me. I'll write the code for my model, but plug it into somebody else's algorithm to solve it. Okay? I can make things, but I get more excited when I can make up a new test method and it's reproducible and it actually helps us try to say this is the way it's going to fail if it fails, or this is when it's going to fail, or here's how to make it so that it fails, or make it so that it doesn't fail. That really excites me. Making it, yeah, I could make it, but it doesn't excite me. So it might be easier for you to write down what you don't really want to do your research contribution. This is a good place for collaborators. So the last one is to meet with your funding program officers to find out where you can get money. So like I said, I was at NSF for 2 years, and I ran a program called Materials, Processing, and Manufacturing. So what sorts of things do you think I funded? Materials, Processing, and Manufacturing. Who's the materials person? What do you think I funded? What sort of things?
Probably also non-destructive evaluations, or
non-destructive evaluations.
Also destructive evaluations.
Also destructive, yeah. I funded some of that. How would you find out what the program funds?
So novel processing.
Novel processing. Mm-hmm. How would you find out more about what does that program fund?
The solicitation.
The solicitation, yeah.
Look at what's been funded.
What's been funded. Okay, where do you find that out?
On the NSF website.
Right, and it's just nsf.gov. Okay, and on everybody's page, like the program for materials processing and manufacturing is part of engineering directorate. But after the little short blurb about what the program funds and what it does, there's a link at the bottom of every page that's for a program, recently funded proposals. Okay, so I spend a lot of my time at NSF telling people what we fund and what we don't fund. Okay, because it's materials processing and manufacturing. So is it materials processing and manufacturing? So you have to do processing and manufacturing. What is manufacturing versus processing, right? I'm sure that's what your pie new way to answer my question. I funded materials processing, so fundamental research to understand the processing of materials. And it could be ceramics, metals, polymers, any kind of material, but understanding the process. Now, when you were understanding the process, you could make a new material if you wanted. But if you propose to make a new material, my program does not fund that. Okay, so you could make a material while you're understanding the process. And to understand the process, you probably have to make a material, process a material in some way. Okay? But the focus of the research could not be, I'm going to make a new material. That was a different place. It's not even in the engineering directorate. Okay? It's a totally different place. So if that proposal came to me, I would have to return it to the person and say, nope, sorry, you don't fit my program. That's DMR, and they have a different deadline, and guess what? It was a month ago. Sorry. They could have picked up the phone and just talked to me, or gone to NSF and talked to me, or talked to other people, or read the page, and found out before they spent hours and hours. I mean, you said you wrote a proposal. It takes hours and hours and hours to write proposals. So you need to make sure you kind of understand what the program funds. So my program funded materials processing and materials manufacturing. And by materials manufacturing, it was the scale up. So you make your nanomaterial at the bench, and you make this much of it. Okay? But now we want to put it in production and make lots of it. How do we do that? What is the fundamental research needed to go from the small scale on the bench to really making it for real product. Those are the types of things I funded. Okay? If you were going to demonstrate, the whole proposal was, I'm going to take this, I'm going to show I can make it in the plant. That is not fundable by NSF unless you are partnering with an industry and then you get a little tiny money from NSF. So the point I'm trying to make is I do materials processing, okay? And I like to look at polymers and the way they behave. And I even work with people who make them try to understand their processes because those are some of my collaborators, so I want to write proposals kind of in that area too. But you have to know what the main sort of focus of your research and the story you're going to tell. If I'm making a new polymer, I'm making a new material, okay, I'm building a robot, okay? If you say, I want to build a robot to NSF, they'll go, no, I'm not getting you money for that. I want to understand the fundamental articulation of the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And the way we're going to demonstrate this is through building a robot that will do blah, blah, blah. Great, here's the money. You find that out by talking to the program directors, okay? But you don't need to go and say, what do I need to do for research? Tell me what research I need to do. What are you funding? Tell me what to do. You go with your idea. So you already know you want to do robotics. You've got expertise in robotics. You know that you're interested in, I don't know, what kind of robotics are you doing?
I'm doing multi-agent.
Multi-agent, what does that mean?
It just means you have a bunch of robots working together, and they're, at least in my case, they're all
identical. Okay, so systems are robots, sort of. Yes. Okay, so she knows she wants robots, she wants multiple robots, she wants them working together. Okay, well, where does that fit? Okay, is she going to look at the way people think and the way people work together and then try to mimic that in the robot? Okay, that might be in behavioral sciences at NSF. Is she going to look at the safety, you know, and how these robots interact with each other with safety? That's going to be another area. Is it just, you know, how do you build them so that they work in concert or something like that? You know, that's going to be a different place. Is she just going to understand, you know, how these robots interact with the thing they're picking up? That might be a different place. So she would go to NSF with this idea, robots working together. These are some questions that I'd like to answer. And she will have read the web page and know that there are like these 4 or 5 programs that look like they might sort of fit. Okay? Go talk to them and then figure out where your passion is and where you think your strongest proposal is, and maybe write it to, you know, like this program here. When you write it to that program there, you can contact these other 4 program directors and say, thank you for talking to me. I've decided to go here, but I think it might be also of interest to your program because blah, blah, blah. This is what you said about it. Okay? So when that proposal gets sent to the person that's the best fit, they might be like me and want more money and spread their money by working together. So they can co-fund things across different units within NSF. So that's also a possibility. But you do need to write it to that program because the reviewers are going to be the reviewers for that program. Any questions? Great. So you can look at requests for proposals. Use resources available to you. These are the ones that are going to be at your institution. You might want to go for some seed funding. Okay, this can be anything from like $5,000 to $50,000 would be considered seed money. And when you become a faculty, you'll want to get that research proposal that's going to pay for a graduate student. You know, it's going to be a $300,000 award over 3 years, so you can get your one student covered, and you'll tick the box of yes, I got research. But don't look past the seed funding, okay? Because maybe you've tried to get your idea funded, and people are saying to you, well, you know, it's kind of high risk. I don't know if it's going to work. You know, what do you have that shows that this is the right direction to go? And you're like, I don't really have anything. So these seed funding, a lot of times they're available through things like SWE or ASME or through your university or other entities where they're willing to invest a little bit of money to see if you can get some results to show that that's the direction you need to go. So don't count those out just because they're, you know, a $5,000 or $25,000 award when you know you need to really go for the $100,000. Okay? Don't discount these. And then if you're a faculty somewhere, you're going to get startup funds. Did everybody know that? Okay, different places are going to give you different amounts of startup funds. Georgia Tech usually gives people 2 students for 2 years as startup funds, as part of the startup funds, as well as toys, equipment. So use your startup funds to pursue the research that you think is the most interesting. Okay, and the thing in brackets is when you go for an interview, you're going to have at least 3 research ideas that it's part of your presentation you give when you're interviewing. And the people who are kind of close to graduation, did you guys know this? Or interested in academic? Okay. A lot of times your department, when they're interviewing people, they'll let students come in for the presentation. So sometimes it's called the future talk or the vision talk or the something. It's not just their research talk, but there's another talk that they do. Anybody been invited to those at all? Okay, a few people. Go to those and see how people present what their research ideas are and take what you think were good ideas about the way it's presented. But basically, this is a lot of the discussion about whether to hire you has been on this. It's your expertise and what you did in your thesis, but this is really key because people hired you in that position because they think you've got good research ideas that are fundable. So you can use those funds to pursue that area and then get more funding. So what I want to do now is hand this out. I have 21 copies, so people will have to share.
I'll share this one.
Can we get one more for the corner? Yeah. 4 people more for one.
Okay, let's get in groups of like 3.
Well, if you're going to work with yeah, okay, that'll work. So you 2 over here.
So why don't you 3 work together? You scoot down here and you 3 work together. You 3 work together, and which group do you lose? Okay, you 4 are together. You 3 are together. You 3 are together. You should join a group. All right. So I'm sure you remember exactly the research that the people said when they introduced themselves earlier. So we're going to take like 30 seconds to tell each other again in just a minute. Okay. Either take the senior most person in your group, okay, or if the senior most person in your group really doesn't want to do this, then you can pick a different person. But the general topic of the proposal that we're going to do right now, okay, is going to be some research area that senior most person is interested in. So if it's the robotics person down here, then you put robotics. If it was the biomedical, whatever, you put that. Okay, as the topic. So take just 1 minute to tell each other your research area again. Figure out who the senior most person is. And since you just told each other your research area, you'll remember what the senior most person told you your research area is. Okay? So do that anyway.
We're both master's students. I'm here.
We don't have to.
So
I've got everything.
Okay.
Whoever wants to.
Yeah, let's do your topic.
So when what they say isn't actually what they feel, how to route them. So they might want to say, I've had a good day today, or instead they might say, I've had a good day. So they just expect their work to be really easy, especially if it's ones up. So yeah, you're gonna fill out this part. Okay, so we're just trying to figure out how do they feel. Are they stressed? Are they confused? Are they at risk for suicide? So we do is you can write down so essentially
Okay, are they learning robots, or
now
it's everything set? I should know everything on the internet.
Clinical results.
They recognize the table and they know how to use it, or are they trying to otherwise
we have their speech, what we're analyzing. And then sort of the ground truth is the test results of were they stressed on paper as well as on the that's kind of a general point to the picture of which one like I don't know, we're looking at so pointing to the picture they don't have to see that.
So it gives you a bit, it's not as
expression, but you have a better
something I don't know.
If they fail, try it another way. You know what I mean?
I don't
in terms of, I don't know, we're still, right now, we're going to fix it. It's huge, it's huge. I think project is huge. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to add yourself to this list?
I
don't know.
I think you're all.
I know what I mean. So, yes, that's exactly what it is. The guy is
Okay, when you write down your expertise, don't just write down what department they're in. You know, do they do experimental work? Do they do modeling work? Do they do NMR? Do they do, you know, are they a robotics person? Do they, what is the expertise that they're bringing to your proposal? So not just their undergrad, what their undergrad degree was, or their department.
I think so.
From my level, stress and depression.
It's been a long day already.
Right.
I mean, I get challenged.
I mean, so basically what my thought is, want to look at how you don't like production process, but effectively more closely work together. Right now,
sort of like we're not allowed to say
giant eye just really we want to provide tools and also like how it is done and things are changing all the time.
Is purely self-understanding. The problem is they're not there. So your goal would be to be like minimum.
Yeah, they're like, okay. And so you got that.
Applying technical interviews.
What are the objectives? I guess it's what I'm calling you don't want to have the objective provide a skill set that goes they're not always they don't have so that's Darwin costs not basically what is new applying technical analysis Darwin has a lot of Darwin is the official so they make teams of Darwin that will run around and play soccer. Your handstand, like backwards in the air,
How is it today?
Yeah,
maybe
there's no standardization because the whole
so for my research,
I mean, it's
different than
health practitioners all in the intro of your
so mine is like stroke, yeah.
Because there's going to be some lights on the cell that you're pretty
No, stroke is like your brain. It's not your heart, but it's like your brain. And generally that happens.
We're rescuing
I just heard I mean, it's interesting. I just forget how to so if you've ever had a stroke, like their arms hanging off, like maybe 30% of the stroke questions right like how you end up with aging population. Everyone loves that term. But a lot of times it's 1/2 of your body.
Water, moisture.
So you have to reflex that other teaching back.
I mean, we do generate generations a lot, so everyone else for teaching is.
Okay, we're almost out of time, so I realize I don't think anybody got through all the questions. I'd be amazed if you did. But these are some good questions to look at when you're trying to come up with a research topic. And you may get through these questions and decide, no, I really wasn't a good idea. Okay? Or you may get with a team, I'll pick on our team back here, who kind of decide, no, we're not the right team to work together. We don't have the right expertise, and we aren't excited about the same types of problems. Okay? But just kind of going through some of these questions, I mean, we only spent like 5 minutes on this. But do you feel like you know more about your colleagues' research and kind of what might be? Anybody come up with one interesting question that might be interesting to write a proposal on at all? Now we're talking a lot.
We're hoping that's the next step. So cool.
You guys were talking about tablets?
Yeah.
What's she gonna do?
So ours is kind of an interesting thing. Well, I guess we didn't really answer any of the questions, but we like talked about them in a roundabout kind of way. But like in my research, we do rehabilitation robotics. So a lot of our staff works with like tablet games. And for the different diseases, you really have to work on developing like an interface of how to like work with the tablet to make it for rehab. So like for example, I'm working on stroke right now. So if you are like weak in your hand or whatever, we have this hand brace, and when you move your hand around, it'll control things happening on the tablet, and we use that to like make games. We have like one for cerebral palsy where it's just like a net and they just move around. And then we have like a little robot that like for like autism where you like teach him to do stuff. So a lot of our research is like using the tablet because that already exists, and using these games and creating new games and stuff like that. But the biggest thing is how to interface with the tablet when you have these disabilities, not only so that you can, but also so that the way that you interface with it works as.
So what was your area that you're in?
I'm in electrical engineering technically, but robotics. And then we had a VLSI/CSS person in ECE. So we were talking about how our team could work together. She could do like the developing of these platforms because we do a lot of developing type stuff, and that would be a good place for her. And then we had a transportation person. And one of the things that actually like people in my lab kind of face when you graduate and try to get these things to work is how do you take what you were using in the lab where you just kind of like made it work and make it into something that is manufacturable. And that's kind of where her expertise lie. Like for example, one of the girls in my lab, she just graduated and she was working on this robot that would play the game with you. And it worked really great. She was more in the learning algorithms. And if you were going to sell it, the robot that she used cost $15,000. So that's not practical. So for her postdoc, she's trying to develop a robot that's like $500. And that would be something that she would have been good at.
And it's on Kickstarter. You should plug her Kickstarter.
I actually Robotics. She didn't tell me that.
Oh yeah, so Zyro Robotics, we go on Kickstarter. They're trying to fund up to like 60,000 right now. They're like a third of the way.
Okay,
you know more
so
about my lab than I do.
This is also a good thing to do before you go see the program director. You know, if you say, I don't know, how much detail do I need? If you just answer some of these questions, these are the kind of things that the program director is going to want to know. Why? Who cares about fun? Who cares if the research is done? What's new? What's the payoff? I mean, all of these things. And we didn't come up with this person came up with it. And then the key thing, if you really are developing a research proposal with people, this is key, this part of it. Okay? A date, an action, and this is probably the biggest key. Who is responsible? Yeah, we need to get back together, and yeah, we need to write that section. Yeah, we need to go look up those papers. Okay, so Sarah will look up papers on blah blah blah. We'll have, here's the date. Definitely the date the proposal is due this year, right? But you'll have all these things in between. And when we work with the women to try to get them to do international research collaborations, this is one of the things they point to that says help them be, the groups that have been successful and gotten money, they said this was a key thing. Because everybody gets excited, they get together, and especially if it's not a team, an ad hoc team like you just threw together, but there was a reason that you brought these people together because of their expertise, or you meet them at a conference, and then you're at the conference, and everybody's all excited about it, and then everybody goes back to their jobs, and nobody's been assigned anything, nobody's responsible for anything, so it kind of doesn't happen. So that's one thing. And I realize I'm 3 minutes over. But I just wanted to end on a suggested reading, a little bit of advice. So I have copies of the books here that you can look at if you want. So the first one is this one and this one. And I don't know, were any of you in my workshop that I did on these? No, I didn't think I remember doing that. I do a workshop on Strengths Finder. What it does is it identifies your strength areas, your top 5 strengths, and the premise of the book is to work on your strengths, not on your weaknesses. And only work on your weaknesses that keep you from doing what you want to do. Okay? So this is the first version of the book. This is the little cute version that they took parts of this and stuck into a book. So this one's a little bit cheaper on Amazon than this one. But it also has an online survey that you take to figure out your strengths. This book, Getting Things Done. Anybody heard of this book? Okay. Do you like this book? Or you just heard of it?
I just heard time management.
Yeah. So the best part of the book, I think, is like this little chart right here. Okay, that I put the little tabby on. And it's stuff, and you decide what to do with stuff. And basically, the bottom line of his thing is, if it takes less than 2 minutes, it's worth doing, do it right away. So don't stick it in your inbox. Don't do it later. If it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it and get it over with. And another thing he says, don't take stuff out of your inbox and then put it back in your inbox. Okay. And then the other thing is, a lot of people don't get things done because they don't identify the next step to actually move towards what you need to do. Okay. So maybe your thing is, I need to get my annual physical. Okay. And I just put it off and don't do it and don't do it. Well, why didn't I do it? Because I didn't have the phone number for the doctor's office. I didn't have my calendar in front of me. I mean, I knew I was supposed to make this appointment, but I didn't have the next step was to look up the phone number. And the next step was to call the doctor's office whilst looking at my calendar. But you'll do the same thing with your thesis work. You know, I've got to finish writing this paper. I've got to finish writing this paper. Well, that's a lot of times too unwieldy. You need, like, I need to go look up papers on this topic. Anyway, pretty good book. This one is by John Maxwell. He writes lots of sort of leadership and business books. This one's called Today Matters. So the place I marked in this one is where he talks about make the decision once and then manage it daily. So there are only a handful of important decisions people need to make in their entire lifetimes. Does that surprise you? Most people complicate life by getting bogged down in decision making. My goal has always been to make it as simple as possible. I've boiled the big decisions down to 12 things. Once I've made those decisions, all I have to do is manage how I'll follow through with them. Okay? So I've decided I'm not going to cheat on my husband. Okay? That's one major decision I made. So I don't have to worry if some guy asks me to go have coffee with him. I just say no, because I've already decided. Right? And I know from other people, starts with like, guys will come into my office, like faculty, and they'll sit there and they'll like pour their heart out about something going on with people in their lives or whatever. And I'll sit there, I'll be nice, and I'll say, you need to talk to Joe about that, or guy, don't talk to me about it, because I don't want them confiding in me, because I don't want them to get the wrong decision. I mean, a wrong, yeah. So I know it kind of sounds silly to decide you're not going to cheat on your husband, but another one that might be more is when I went to the National Science Foundation, you can travel a lot. And also as a faculty, you can travel a lot. So when my kids were little, I decided that I was not going to travel more than six times a year. Okay? And so when those 6 times were used up, I said no. Okay? Now, there are some times when you want exceptions. If I had gotten asked to be the keynote speaker at some conference, like a major conference, I would have probably made an exception. But if you've already decided those things, then it's easier to manage that decision. And that's the whole premise of his book. And he says what his 12 decisions were. And then this book, anybody heard of this book? She Wins. Okay, She Wins, You Win. This person is actually visiting faculty in the College of Business, sorry. I changed her name. And she used to be really, really high up in CNN, and she's now retired. And so one of the things that she points out is never talk negatively about another woman in front of a man. Okay? And I've marked the chapter here if you want to read her little thing. She says this is the thing that she gets the most pushback when she says it in a conference. But when you say something negative about another woman in front of a man, it means more than if it was a man saying something negative about women. Because you know, because you're one of them. You're a woman. So, and she points out here that, you know, you think you're just letting off steam because, you know, your bosses come in and said, Susie Q, blah, 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 and you go, yeah, she's always, you know, she's never prepared for that meeting, or she's always on my case, or whatever you say, you think you've just kind of blown off steam and you've made this bond, when really what she's seen, what I've seen, what other people seen, is it just comes back. That's what that guy remembers all the time. And they'll repeat. They'll be like to their guy friends, they'll say, well, Mary Lynn didn't like her either. And so when you pull down other women, it actually hurts you. And when other women get promoted, actually that helps you. So I really like that book too. And then the last one is we did some research, some of my other gender research that we did, and we asked women and men how often they talk about their research with their colleagues. Males talk a lot more about their research to their colleagues than females do. We've got the data to show it. We've got the data from Georgia Tech. We've got the data from 8 other universities. So my kids were little, and one of them had grown up, and I had been in my office working on that research paper, or writing that proposal, and I'm going out the door. I mean, I was eating my lunch at my desk, right? I wasn't going anywhere except my office and my lab. And they call me, your kid's thrown up. I walk out the door. I run into John. He says, hey, what you doing? Alexander just threw up. I got to go pick him up. Okay. The only time he sees me is when I'm running down the hallway when my kid's gotten sick, or when I got to go pick up my kid, or whatever. And so the first thing they think about me is, oh, she's got kids. Oh, yes, she's faculty. So here's what I'd say to you. When you walk out the door to go pick up your kid at daycare, or your sick mother, or whatever it is you're leaving your office to go do, you were doing some kind of research, something. I know you were, okay? You were doing some research. You have some research question that you're looking at that you're excited about. You have some paper you're working on. You have a proposal. You have some collaboration you're working on. Talk about that first. Then you can tell them you're going to go get your kid that's thrown up. They can think you're a nice mom after that. But first say something technical that you did. It will go a long way. The other thing is when you introduce a female colleague to someone who doesn't know her. Okay? So our kids are in daycare together, right? And now I'll meet the chair of some department that I know that she doesn't know. Here she is. Her kid's in daycare with my kids. Well, if it was, you can sit back down. If it was, you know, Jim introducing, here's my colleague. She has got some really exciting research going on. She's looking at blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah, we also have kids about the same age. Okay? So that sets the tone, because if you introduce the person and you say something that, you know, is really important, they really are passionate about playing the guitar. They love their kids. You know, yes, their husband is also a professor, but that's what that person's going to ask you about. So if you talk about their research or what kind of contribution or some, I just saw her give a presentation at and it was really good and well received. They had lots of really good questions for her afterward. Then that person is going to ask them about that topic, because that's what you told them about. So just there are these little things that you can do to help each other, because what that says is, not only it says she's technical, but it says I know something technical about what she does, so we don't sit around and talk about our kids all the time. We do. So sorry for going a little bit over time. Any comments or questions? Thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed it.